Hello, and welcome to the Relationship Clinic podcast. I'm Renee Natvig, your host, and today we continue our series, Divorcing with Dignity. Today my special guest is attorney Anthony Diaz. Anthony is a partner in the Orlando office of CPLS, PA. He practices in the areas of collaborative law, estate, trust, and probate litigation, family and divorce law, and mediation and arbitration. Anthony is a Florida Supreme Court qualified arbitrator with over 10 years extensive experience. In addition, Anthony offers insightful experience from his prior knowledge of over 15 years as a New York CPA, a skill which translates well in his role in litigation and arbitration cases. He is prepared to assist clients with the many financial components and complexities of litigation, mediation, arbitration, and divorce. Anthony's been considered one of the leading collaborative law attorneys in Florida. He was trained in collaborative divorce in 2009 and has completed extensive advanced collaborative training. He offers this experience to coach those going through divorce, relationship, and everyday life challenges, guiding them from pain to peace to move on from their divorce to have the life and love they deserve and desire. I hope you enjoy the podcast. Welcome, Anthony. Thanks for being here today.
Well, it's great to be here. Thank you for having me. Looking forward to our conversation.
Yes, and you've had lots of conversations. In fact, I didn't know it until I started looking deeper into your background that you have a whole book, right, called Divorcing. You do your Divorce with Dignity.
Yeah, that's one of 3 ebooks I created. It was the first one, and it was exciting to be able to put my thoughts down in words and what my journey has been and how I've helped others through their journey.
So what if you could share with us, kind of start there, what was so powerful for you enough to, from your experiences, write an ebook on Divorce with Dignity? What did you, maybe summarize, what was so important about getting that out? What did you want people to know?
Well, that ebook was a culmination of years of evolving. So I had been a family law attorney for many years, and many of us start out with high conflict cases and going to court and fighting it out, and after a number of years that just wasn't satisfying for me, and my journey was to figure out a better way. And I had gotten involved with the collaborative process a number of years ago and wanted that to be the focus of my practice. So I'm going along on that track, and then what came to me is, I want to help people have a peaceful divorce. And the mission I had is to reach everyone that is going through a divorce or has been through divorce, and to help them through either the moving on process or the moving through process. So I call the being in the process moving through it, because you're there and you want to get to the finality of the legal process, and then the moving on process is what happens after that.
As an attorney?
Well, to be able to help the clients, help them to figure out what's next. And then I decided, I can help them figure out what's next while the legal process is still going on. And that's where the idea came in for Divorcing with Dignity, and to be able to go through the legal process with dignity and to end up with a peaceful outcome.
So, as an attorney, helping people go through that process in a different way for a peaceful outcome.
Yes.
And then you said about even after the divorce, how would you enter in to help them after the divorce?
Well, it could be either a legal client or somebody who wasn't a legal client of mine, to do coaching.
Okay.
And then to use a lot of the skills and tools that I learned after my divorce was over that I wish I would have been able to know and use in my own divorce. I knew that would be helpful for other people. So that's when I started the next series of books, moving consciously through conflict, and that's helping anyone who has a conflict in their life to be more mindful of resolving a conflict situation. And then to work with couples, the couples that are in the should I stay or should I go mode, to be able to help them clarify if this is a relationship that they want to stay in, and if they do, to help to give them some tools that were helpful to me in having more passion and purpose in your relationships.
So that it steps even broader into helping people than
Yes.
just a legal
Yeah.
sense.
It's, kind of helping people deciding whether they want to go through divorce, helping people that are in the divorce process, and helping people after the divorce process, and people that are looking to get into relationships. How do you know what's a healthy relationship and what's not? Because a lot of people divorce because they weren't in a healthy relationship for one reason or another, emotionally unhealthy, physically unhealthy. To be able to help people make different choices so that they can have more passion and to see, is this the purposeful relationship that they're looking for?
So having that personal experience, all the layers that are involved, and that sounds like you're incorporating that into your life's work, that this isn't just about what might happen in divorce, but conflict and how to move through that.
Absolutely.
Whether you're with someone, I'm just
Yeah.
curious, because I don't think in our series here I've talked with someone with that kind of breadth of interest in helping people in more than in a legal way.
Sure.
Just
Well, I want to be known as a peacemaker,
yeah.
and that's really important for me. One, from a legal perspective, and have a peaceful outcome. But I'm kind of looking at it more globally. People that are able to resolve conflicts easier, more peacefully, are going to model that behavior for their children. So now their children has a frame of reference on how to resolve conflicts, whether it's in a relationship or out in life to begin with. And then just people in general, if they're able to resolve conflicts peacefully, look at what will happen into the universe. And especially in this day and age of what's happening out in the world, there's a lot of unrest, there's a lot of uneasiness, and a lot of people don't feel like their life is peaceful or the world is peaceful. So what can each person do individually to take responsibility in their own lives for resolving conflict peacefully? And if you multiply that by person after person after person, that's going to have a big impact on the planet.
Yeah. And when I went to one of the talks that you gave, and you mentioned that, well, how does this affect society then? How a person goes through divorce. That was a really good point. I thought that how that situation goes affects not only the children, but the people around, and the stories that get told from there, or the experiences. Then they take that either anger or peace onto other people.
Yeah, you have a choice.
Right.
So that's what motivates me and keeps me going, because of the impact it can have. It's not just on one person. It's on mankind in general.
Yeah. And that feels powerful.
It does, and it's something that there's not a lot of people that are doing that, but I think it's necessary and needed, and there are a lot of other peacemakers out there. The people that are involved in the collaborative process, they're all all of us are peacemakers.
Right.
And I know you and I are involved in the same group, and that's our mindset, and that's what connects all of us, because we want to have families to have a peaceful outcome to their divorce.
And you're uniquely suited for collaborative divorce in that you, along with being a peacemaker, you're a CPA
Yes.
as well?
Yeah. Well, I used to be in my first life.
Okay, in your first life. So you kind of got the numbers background. How do you think that influences how you come to the table in a divorce situation, having that background? Is that, do you you obviously prefer the legal role, but how does that influence how you work with people in a divorce?
Yeah.
Do you think that
Well, it definitely adds value and a different perspective, because we usually have, especially in a collaborative divorce, we have a financial neutral. But my clients, knowing I have that background, I can give them a lot of insight even before the financial neutral gives their input. And when it's similar to mine, it kind of confirms that that's the right action to take, or that's the right decision to make. So clients hire me many times because of that financial background, because most divorces, and especially collaborative divorces, are very financial in nature, and they're complicated, and they need another set of eyes. So if I can help my client through that way, even though I don't practice as a CPA, you know, I have that understanding of financials in a divorce, and that's helpful. It's also helpful as a mediator. I'm also a Florida certified mediator, and I have attorneys and clients without attorneys seek me out because they want someone with that financial background, because most attorneys don't have that background. So to have a mediator or an attorney with that background is unique and valuable.
How does your role change then as you move from mediator to collaborative divorce? Just to give people a sense of how you might show up in the room differently as a divorce attorney versus a mediator.
Yeah. Well, so we have kind of the three spectrums of divorce. You know, you have the traditional litigation, and my role in there is to advocate, you know, strongly for my client, and it's a very adversarial role. Then you have the other extreme as a mediator. I don't have a client. I have two people without an attorney, or two people who do have attorneys that come into the process and are looking for an unbiased person that understands divorce, that's helping them to resolve the issue. So I don't take any sides, and that's what people call it a referee. I don't, kind of, because a referee means a fight or a battle. You know, I just look at it as a facilitator. I'm going to facilitate discussions and communications that will helpfully uncover options that will lead to resolution. Collaborative divorce is kind of in the middle, because you don't have a neutral position. You do have a client, but you don't advocate the same way as you would in an adversarial situation, because everyone's goals are similar in a way. They want to have an outcome without going to court, and they want it peacefully resolved. So I support my client in achieving their goals, at the same time to be able to be mindful of the other spouse's goals, and to see if there are ways that the goals intersect, and the achievement of one spouse's goals doesn't negate the other spouse's goals, and to figure out a way that both of them can get their needs met. So that's kind of, you know, a little bit of the traditional litigation, because you have a client and you're representing them, and a little bit of the mediation, because you're looking to try to have a resolution,
and options,
and option building and goal setting. So you have a little bit of both.
When do you think each one, you know, this series is primarily focused on collaborative, but just since you have so much experience on both, when would you maybe encourage people towards mediation versus a collaborative process?
Right, that's a good question. And every time I meet with a prospective client, I have a whiteboard. So I sit down with them, and I split it into 3 columns. So I have the traditional litigation on the left side, collaborative divorce on the right side, and I have mediation in the middle. And then I explain to them, if you're not looking to hire an attorney, you probably don't want to go the traditional litigation side because you don't know anything about evidence and you wouldn't need to know. And maybe your other spouse is going to get an attorney, so you'd be, severely disadvantaged by not having the background. I go into the collaborative divorce and go into their other spouse and to see, are they interested in a peaceful outcome? Are there children involved? Do you feel that both of you would be able to come to a resolution with the help of attorneys and some other neutrals that might be able to help you out with either the parenting plan or the financials? So I gauge where each client, what's a good option for them, but I give them all three options, and I don't even tell them what I think they should do. I want them to ask questions that'll help them to lead to their own decision. But many times, prospective client will say, what do you think? And I'll give them the pros and cons for each, and then I'll put it back to them based on the pros and cons. What process do you think you would like to do? So it's just a matter of educating people, giving them all the options, explaining what each option is, and helping them find an option that has a solution that's best for them.
Okay, that resonates with them.
Sure, everybody is different, but having it on the board, and what I do is then I take a picture of it and I send it to them, because if they don't know yet, to have it with them so they can just bring it up on their phone or their email, and especially if they want to go over with their spouse. Now kind of educating their spouse as well by having that laid out.
Okay. So as you are in that role of peacemaker then, except maybe in litigated divorce, right?
Right.
As mediator.
But I want to stop you there. Yeah. Even in cases where it is litigation.
Yeah.
When I talk with my client, I said, we can't control your spouse's attorney or how your spouse behaves or reacts, but we do have a choice of how we want to approach this case, and you have a choice of how you want to react. So I kind of say, we can keep our own backyard clean, and one that's going to make you feel better, that's going to make our part of the process go smoother. And if we ever get to court, the court is going to see a difference between a party that wants to have a resolution and a party that wants to fight. Judges don't like people who want to fight because they have to deal with it and they have to get involved in it, and it usually makes the case harder for them because the attorneys are always going before the court and they're always arguing about something, and by the time it gets to trial, the judge is exhausted and the attorneys are exhausted. But so I still use that peacemaker wisdom even in those cases, because it can have an effect on my client and on the case.
Wow, no matter what.
No matter what. It doesn't matter. And I wasn't the first one to say this, but somebody said, wherever you go, there you are.
Right.
That's what,
we take ourselves wherever.
Yeah, and that's what happened to me in the beginning when I was doing a lot of litigation, and I felt like I was in two worlds at the same time. And it didn't feel right in either world, so that's why I'm really continuing to work towards either non-litigation or uncontested cases that I can help people figure out solutions. And in the meantime, to know I can still wear that peacemaker hat, even if it is in a high conflict. I don't have to be one way in one case and one way in another, because we're not. We're still the same person. We still have the same personality. We still have the same values. So there's no reason why we can't have them show up in any situation that we're in.
Wow, that might be an unusual kind of support that you're offering your client. I mean, it's meaningful, I think. Like you said, especially as we, in our culture, are kind of grappling with peace or polarization or...
Exactly. It's needed. It really is. And I think for the nation, the world as a whole, to come to grips with that, I think we all have to realize that. And I go into that in my ebook, Moving Consciously Through Conflict. And one of the ways you do that is through compassion. And whether you're in a divorce case, and it's really hard because my clients are, I'm not going to be compassionate for my spouse. Are you kidding me? And I said, okay, you don't have to tell them that, but if you can put yourself in their shoes, you might not, if they did something, you might not agree with it, and you might not be able to come to grips with it, but this is for you, it's not for them. And I think, if that can happen, then that will help us when we go out in the world to have compassion for maybe somebody who's not treating us well, to understand that they might be having a bad day, or imagine what's going on in their world to react that way against you. And it's all about them.
Right.
So, I want to help people have that mindset, because if all of us had that mindset, imagine how differently the world would look.
Right. And as you're saying that, even if that mindset, you're the only one who might know that you're having that mindset, right? As you're, if no matter what the situation of the splitting up is, if you're coming from that place of compassion, imagining putting yourself in their shoes, I have to believe that we're going to show up differently no matter what gets said to the other party.
Yes.
Just that process of attempting.
Yeah, and if we can be that with our clients, we're modeling for them an opportunity to go out in the world and to do it on their own. So I think if we have that mindset, I think it's our responsibility to model that for our clients, so that they can look at things differently. And it might take more than one conversation, but
almost permission to let them think of it differently.
Right.
Like you're saying, in modeling it.
Right.
I mean, I'm saying permission as in, we might get stuck in that place where, I need to fight for myself, and to hear someone say, you can let yourself step in somebody's shoes.
Sure. And you can still feel whatever feelings you have. It doesn't invalidate or negate those feelings.
Right.
But if you want to be able to move on and you want to be able to feel peace, this is one of the ways you can do that. And you have a choice. You can either go down this road and have all this anger and whatnot. Well, okay, so you're going to have an outcome that has a consequence. Or maybe you want to try things differently. If this isn't working, then you have nothing to lose by trying some compassion.
And that might be hard for some people to understand. Well, how do I know if I'm losing, right? Like maybe divorce is just bad, and maybe I don't have anything to gain by feeling compassion. How do you help people with that?
Well, it's the same thing with forgiveness.
Right.
And that's another difficult concept for people. When people are in a state of pain, they're in that, what I call it, and other people call it, their pain body. And that's where they're coming from. So they're kind of stuck, their energy is stuck. And to be able to help them look at, you have other choices you can make. And if you're feeling pain, you're allowed to feel that. I said, would you like to feel differently? And it takes a while. It just takes a lot of conversations to start to peel back what's making them feel that way, and to get them to see that they want to feel a different way and to explore, well, how can we do that?
I'm smiling because I'm thinking how we're not too dissimilar in what we're doing then with clients as I work with people in therapy, some of those same questions. In some ways, it's making me think like the values of us as people are just entering into how we interact with people. And
wherever you go,
yeah.
It's there, and that's whether we know it or not. It just is.
And people who are wanting more of that may resonate.
And that's why when I go out to talk with people and they say, well, what type of clients should I refer to you? And I tell them, I don't, my skill and expertise is resolving cases peacefully. There are people out there who aren't interested in that, and that's fine. And I said, well, I have a couple of people that might be a better fit, better suited. But if they are interested in a peaceful outcome, even if they're struggling, and even if they're angry, but the outcome is that they want a peaceful outcome, or they're not sure, I'll talk with anyone. And if at the end of the talk, I can get them to say, I really didn't look at it that way. I'm angry, I'm not feeling good about this person, but I want to be able to move on, and I want to be able to not feel this way. So how can we go through a very emotional and difficult process and to still have a peaceful outcome? And who is best to navigate those people through that? Having dignity is not how the case ends, it's how the case goes through the process.
Okay, so that is.
And if people can be heard throughout the process, even if the outcome isn't what they wanted or they expected, they all feel good about it because they were heard, they had options, and they chose them. And in the beginning, it was litigation, which again is a situation where you don't always get what you're looking for because you're having a judge make the decision. But at least at the end of the day, no matter what the outcome is, they're grateful and thankful that I was able to help them through the process and listen to them and hear them and respect them and give them options, and help them to have as much self-determination as they can in an adversarial process where ultimately you lose that decision making if you go before a court. But having a divorce with dignity can happen even if you don't get the outcome that you desire.
Yeah, but the process itself, so maybe that was a little different than I understood at the beginning. The process itself, it allows the dignity at the end for more peace, right?
Yeah, and the court process doesn't lend itself to a peaceful outcome or a divorce with dignity, and that's where I come in to create an environment where people feel heard. So even if it's an adversarial process, which doesn't lend itself to people being respected or heard or have a peaceful outcome or even to feel dignity, then it's my role to be able to work with my client to help them feel that at the end of the case, no matter what the process is.
Okay.
And that's why there are other legal processes that are more suited to have a divorce with dignity. And it's more suited, so it's not just my role, it's the process and other people's roles that contribute to having a divorce with peace.
Right. So you're now multiplying the impact of having other people potentially contributing.
And that will also help to have a peaceful ending. So not only is the process dignified, you have other people that are contributing to not only being a dignified process, but their mindset is to help both clients to have a peaceful outcome, and that's very different than the adversarial process.
So now we're talking about collaborative, where
Yes.
we've got this team contributing to the possibility of
Absolutely.
a process.
I mean, it's a perfect process for one, having a peaceful outcome.
Mm-hmm.
Throughout the process, both spouses having an outcome on their case. It's their case, it's their life, it's their property, it's their kids. So who's the best ones to be able to make that decision? And in court, you have a certain amount of time that you get to decide what it is, and then if you can't decide, it goes to court, and the court makes the decision. In the collaborative process, you agree not to go to court. So we've already cut that part of the process out. So now we have people that are engaged in the collaborative process that agree to decide the case for themselves. So when you can have a process that has that, it just lends itself to be a more dignified and peaceful process.
It's supported by the whole team.
Exactly, and the whole team, whether, even if it's the other spouse's attorney, their goal is to make sure not only their spouse feels heard and feels dignified, but that the other spouse feels that way too. And that doesn't happen when you go to court.
Right, and that's important. Why is it important that each attorney is actually supporting both people? Because it's setting the tone for, it's setting both the emotional and the goal-oriented process for both people getting the most of what they want and for each other.
And happens many times in cases where either myself or the other attorney will interact with the other spouse and say, I know what you're saying, I know what you're feeling, and I hear you. And to be able to have the other spouse's attorney to contribute in that way, then it's not a me against you. It's not this attorney against that attorney. It's all of us working together, and that's the definition of collaboration. It's not just one side or the other side or any of the parties. It's being able to work together as a unit and as a team, and that's why it works. And that's why it's so different from the court process. The court process is a me against you. It's somebody wins and somebody loses. And in the collaborative process, the goal is that it's a win-win situation for everybody. So when they walk away, and again, there's compromise and whatnot, but they walk away getting maybe not what they thought they wanted, but what they really needed.
Right.
Both spouses can get what they need. They're going to feel respected, and they're going to feel dignified.
And you are particularly well suited for this collaborative route of separation and ending that form of their relationship. You've got lots of background in not only as an attorney, but as a CPA.
Yes.
Yeah, and as a mediator.
Yes, I do.
So we've covered quite a bit of ground as far as your experience and how you help people as a peacemaker and in your different roles. Anything else you would like people to know about you or the process, or how you help people?
Yeah. So when I realized that I wanted to do something different and there was a better way, I understood that what I wanted to do for the world is to be a peacemaker. And with the divorce statistics the way they are, most people have been divorced at one time. And then if you add that to the people that are going through a divorce and the people that are thinking about divorcing, you have most of the population. So my mission and vision is to make sure that everyone who's thinking about divorce, going through a divorce, or have been divorced in the past, to know that life gets better and that there is help, and there are people out there that are skilled, that are interested, and have the mindset to help you to decide whether divorce is the right option, to help you through the legal process, but to help them through the emotional side of that, and to help them to figure out why they're stuck and haven't been able to move on from their divorce. So what I want people to know is wherever you are in the stage of the process, that there is help, and there is a better way, and to really just know that, and to seek out people that can help you, because we're out there and we're committed to helping those that are in that situation. So that's what I want people to know, and that they can look for when they work with me.
Right. So we're nearing the end, and we will be giving your information to folks on how to contact you, but it's always helpful just to have you kind of share with folks how can they contact you, phone, however.
The best way is to go to I have 2 websites, and my legal website is www.cplspa.com, and that has all the information if you're looking for some legal assistance, or you have some legal questions I might be able to help you with. I also have tools and tips that might be able to help you through the divorce process or resolving a conflict easily. So I have 3 ebooks that's on my other website, and that's anthonyjdiaz.com. So if you go there, you have an opportunity to download one or any of the 3 ebooks, and there's also an area to go ahead and contact me in both websites. So I look forward to supporting everyone who would like some help with divorcing with dignity.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. It's been great. I appreciate it.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you.